Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this video finds you well and I hope you're keeping safe and healthy. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 5 favorite underrated compliment getter fragrances for men, so please make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin the video and I tell you what my top 5 favorite underrated compliment getter fragrances for men are, I just want to say that if you like this type of content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 lists, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, and interviews, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you got to do is click that red button in the corner, and of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on that bell icon. This way, whenever I do upload future videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. So I decided to put this list together because I was thinking it over the past few days and I thought to myself, there are some fragrances that do really well in terms of getting compliments, but for whatever reason I consider them to be underrated, either because they just came out, either because they're just lesser known fragrances in the community, or maybe it's a brand that is not as popular as the Dior's and Chanel's of the world. And so I decided to compile a very short list to let you know what these fragrances are and how I would personally rank them in terms of not only the way that they smell, but also their affordability as well. And I also want to say that I personally don't really wear fragrances to get compliments, but it's always a nice thing that happens. And it's a beautiful thing that accompanies this passion and this hobby that we're all very diligently into. And it's one of these things where when you do get complimented, whether it be on an accessory or your haircut or your fragrance or your tattoo or whatever, it brightens your day, it lifts your spirit, it enhances your mood, and it's just a wonderful thing, right? It's a very nice gesture to compliment somebody else on the fragrance that they're wearing and the way that they smell. It's also indicative of good hygiene as well, right? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start it right away with the first fragrance on this list, and this is actually not my bottle. This is a bottle that was lent to me by one of my close friends in the community. His name is Carlos. I'm sure you guys know him. And the reason why I decided to talk about this one first and why I consider it to be an underrated fragrance is because when it comes to designer fragrances, this is a company that is not talked about as much as some of the other companies out there. And this company is Tos, and this fragrance is called 1920 The Origin Eau de Toilette. There's another one in a darker bottle. Just make sure you're going for the blue bottle. This is the one that is more conducive to getting compliments, I would say. All right, so the thing with this one is it kind of reminds me of L'Eau de Pour Homme by Issey Miyake. And when my friend Carlos got in the car, we picked him up from Brooklyn, and he got in the car and this was really booming off his skin. And I complimented him right away. I said, wow, whatever you're wearing is radiating off your skin. It's very noticeable and it smells great. And I asked him what it was, and of course, he had me play the guessing game a little bit, and I was trying to put the pieces together because it did kind of remind me of various elements from other fragrances. And initially, I thought it was like Nautica Voyage or something along those lines. It does smell a little fresh and aquatic, you know? And eventually, he told me what it was, and when I smelled it up close, I said, oh, this is kind of reminding me of L'Eau de Pour Homme. So there's this clean element about it. It's definitely very citrusy in the opening. It has an aquatic element about it too, and it's just a very likable fragrance. It is such an easy to wear fragrance. It's also one that is conducive to getting a lot of compliments because of how accessible the formula is. There are no rough edges about this one. There's nothing about it that is daring or hard to get along with. I feel like it has this universal appeal about it. Definitely check it out. Tos, The Origin 1920, and this is the Eau de Toilette. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is one that I enjoyed right away, but I'm still having a hard time loving this fragrance. I feel like there are some fragrances out there that are very functional, right? You wear them with a certain purpose in mind, and you know that they're going to achieve that purpose. You know they're going to do well. You know they're going to be successful. But in terms of intriguing your own nose, it might fall a little bit short of that expectation. And I would certainly say that that's the case with this fragrance here. This one is Alien Man Mirage. We know there's the original Alien Man, which has this strong note of dill in there, and that aromatic property makes it a little bit strange, but I think fans of it will continue to be fans of it. You know, Thierry Mugler, which is now just called Mugler, they have their steadfast fan following, and I think rightfully so. They have produced a lot of amazing fragrances in the past, from Alien, for Women, Womanity, Angel Man, and just tons of really good flankers. But here we have a fragrance that borrows elements from the original Alien for Men. So it kind of has that culinary sort of aromatic opening, but it also has this sweetness in the base that's a little bit reminiscent of Invictus Aqua. And you guys know Invictus Aqua almost has this coumarin sort of a vibe going on in there, that tonka bean base. It's a little sweet. It definitely gives it that modern touch, right? It smells contemporary. And we've just seen a bunch of fragrances containing that coumarinic base, right? We've seen that fragrance. We've seen Versace Eros. We've seen Mandarina Duck Pure Black, Azzaro Wanted, just tons of fragrances. Urban Hero by Jimmy Choo, if I'm not mistaken. And so here we have yet another fragrance to add to that ever expanding and ever growing collection of tonka bean fragrances, but this one has that aromatic appeal in the opening that also makes it a little bit unique, and it makes it stand out among the rest. But nevertheless, I definitely think it's the type of fragrance that you can get tons of compliments with, and every time I've worn it, not only has my wife complimented me on it, but I've also gotten compliments recently from some outsiders as well, or some strangers I should say. But great smelling fragrance, and I definitely recommend that you should check it out. The next one that I want to talk about is underrated in the sense that this is a recent release. I mean, this literally just came out. I don't think it's been out for more than a couple of days, and as of the time that I'm shooting this video, of course. And this fragrance is by the brand Tumi, and it's called Awaken. Now, full disclosure, I haven't received a compliment from this one aside from my wife and one of my close friends. But I must say that this has a DNA, it has a formula in it that I know is going to do well, and I know is going to get you compliments. So when I smelled this one for the first time, I made a connection immediately to fragrances like Dior Sauvage and Coach for Men. And again, I find Coach for Men to be very similar to Dior Sauvage, also Prada Luna Rosa Carbon, but that's much, much closer to Dior Sauvage. So this fragrance has something similar going on in there with the citrus and the ambroxan. I don't even know if ambroxan is fully listed as a note, but I definitely get it in there, and it almost gives me that Dior Sauvage vibe. And I can tell you right now, Dior Sauvage is one of my most complimented designer fragrances of all time. And so if you have something that smells 70% similar to it, and that's a conservative estimate, I would reckon to say that you are going to get just the same amount of compliments from this one, if not a little bit less. Or you know what? You might actually get more compliments from it, because Dior Sauvage is such a common fragrance now that whenever people smell it, they're likely to know that you're wearing Dior Sauvage. I think it has achieved that level of popularity. So definitely check out Awaken by Tumi. I think it's the type of fragrance that you can get a lot of compliments with. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is actually an old school fragrance, an oldie but a goodie, I would say. And this one is a little bit sweeter than the rest of the fragrances in here. I don't think this one has any aquatic inclinations, although it has a little bit of a citrusy touch on account of this note of lemon. Again, I don't even know if lemon is in the note breakdown, but I personally pick up on a lemon note. And this one by Hanae Mori is called HM. And there's another one called HIM or Him. That one has more of a tea vibe. That one also smells really, really good. Also on the underrated side, but I personally really enjoyed this one, which is a little bit older. And this one kind of smells like lemon candies. So there's this sweet vanilla thing going on in the base, but it also has this lemony opening that I really, really enjoy about the fragrance. And every time I've worn it, I think it adds this layer of intrigue where people are inclined to ask you, what are you wearing, right? Because it's a fragrance that is different from other fragrances on the market, but I also feel like it's one that maybe started to catch a little bit of hype or a little bit of steam when it first came out, and then it sort of plateaued. Not to say that it, you know, decreased in interest from people, but it just plateaued, right? There are these steady fans of the brand and of this fragrance in specific that continue to wear it, continue to buy it, but I just don't see it being spoken about a lot in the YouTube fragrance community or anywhere else for that matter. So I personally really really enjoy it. I, full disclosure, acquired it just this year in 2020. I had it maybe for 3 months now, but every time I spray it on, I'm like, yeah, this is a great fragrance. And yes, I have received a few compliments from it recently as well, and so I could personally vouch for it. And the last fragrance is one that I have personally received a lot of compliments with. Not in the same day, of course. It's not like they come in waves or anything like that, but they're peppered in there, right? They're sprinkled in there. So I'll get 1 or 2 compliments every time I wear it. And my wife really, really enjoys this one. And I also want to say part of the reason why she enjoys this one as much as she does is because, and I made this connection as well, it does very faintly remind me of another fragrance that I wear a lot and I've worn a lot throughout the years, and my wife also enjoys smelling on me. And the fragrance that I want to talk about is Trussardi Uomo. Now, there are 2 versions of this fragrance. There's the older Uomo, the newer Uomo. I'm talking about the newer one. And Trussardi Uomo, this is an amazing fragrance. It has this fresh, clean, citrusy sort of a vibe to it. An element about it just smells like dryer sheets, if that makes sense. And I think the reason I'm saying that is because it kind of reminds me of Nautica Voyage, which is a fantastic composition by Maurice Roussel, who is such a skilled and super knowledgeable perfumer. And my wife loves Nautica Voyage. And as soon as I sprayed this one on, I ended up getting a few compliments from her. And, you know, she said, wow, you smell really good. Whatever you're wearing today, make sure to wear it more often. And at one point, it occurred to me to ask her, and I turned to her and I said, does this remind you of Nautica Voyage at all? And she goes, yeah, I thought that's what you were wearing. And so surprisingly enough, it's not Nautica Voyage, but it's something that smells really good, but is also different enough from Nautica Voyage that I think, you know, I'm having a hard time telling what the difference is exactly. I know they're not exactly the same. They're really in the same genre. I'm not even really suggesting that one is an inspiration of the other or is a clone of the other. I just feel like they would be appropriate for the same exact occasions, the same exact scenarios, and it's just such an easy to wear and easy to pull off fragrance. And not only that, it can be had for somewhere between $22 and $25. So it is super, super, super affordable. Such a fantastic fragrance. And I currently have the 50 ml, but if and when this does run out, I will be purchasing the 100 ml just for the price. It makes a lot of sense. I'm going to leave a link down below to where you can find it if I find it for a good price online, which I know I can because it's still in circulation. It's not currency or anything like that, but I know it's still in production. I meant to say not in circulation. I made it sound like a banknote. So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. These have been my top 5 favorite underrated compliment getter fragrances for men. And of course, again, they're underrated because they're either from a lesser known brand, maybe they just came out, or maybe when they did come out, they did really well initially and then they sort of plateaued. And so I really hope you enjoyed this list. I would also like to ask, what underrated compliment getter fragrances are you familiar with that you would like to share with us? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. I always love the interaction between me and my subscribers. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for commenting. I love you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.